In Christ alone, my hope is found. Hello, I'm Linda Berry and I worship at the Square Methodist Church. And I've been asked to share a little bit about my work through the past year and to say where I see hope going forward. I work in a local primary school as a higher level teaching assistant, which sees me go across all the key stages and working with children aged 3 to 11. The year started normally, if you can remember what normal felt like. But by the end of March, you would have thought that having put in restrictions and precautions, that we would be sending children home early for the Easter holidays. And it was difficult on that afternoon, saying goodbye to the children, telling them to stay safe, but not being able to answer the questions they had. Like, when will I see my friends again? When will we be back at school? Will I have the same teacher when I come back to school? All these were questions we just didn't have answers for. So the term ended very prematurely and very abruptly. Lockdown happened and my school formed a hub with 3 other local primary schools, and that was manned by skeleton staff, of which I was one. And it was in that hub that we started to get to grips really with the new rules and regulations around COVID, what we could do, what we were expected to do, what we had to do, all to keep the children safe. The hub was for key workers' children, so there were a few children, it wasn't the whole school. But it was during that hub that we had to try and get our heads around totally different values. Things that you would normally encourage children to do, we had to tell them they couldn't do anymore. Children had their own resources and they weren't allowed to share, and to turn around and to tell a child they can't share something is really hard when it's something that you really want to instill in them. Likewise, if they fall over, they're not allowed to offer a hand to a friend to help them up. And that's hard for the children, but it was also very hard for the adults as well. To keep everyone safe, we had to learn all the new measures that went around COVID. Schools continued like that for quite a number of weeks, and then after the summer half term, we went back to school in small bubbles. Just certain year groups went back to school, and I was asked to lead a bubble within my school, which was great. I had 7 children, and only 7 because that's all we could fit in the classroom with the 2-metre parameter guidelines. We had our own entrance and exit to school. We had our own adults in the classroom. We had our own toilet facilities. We had our own outside space, outside playtimes. Everything was very, very structured. It had to be. One of the highlights in that time was that I had one parent come to me and a bit concerned because her youngest child was in my bubble and she thought she'd have a real struggle to get her to come into school every day, as her elder 2 siblings were not having to go to school. But contrary to that, this younger child wanted to come to school and couldn't wait to get to school to join our bubble. So that was great. And we had a lovely little tight knit community, and I really enjoyed that time. Apart from anything else, I was in one place, which for me was a real luxury because I normally have to trundle around the school with all my bits. Summer came, summer went, and obviously we're all back in school from September. It looks hugely different to how it did a year ago. We have staggered start times, staggered finish times. There's one-way systems, sanitising hands on entrance and exit every time they come in or out, but that's been happening since March. We have to sanitise tables between anyone different sitting at a table. Staggered lunchtimes. Lunches have to be eaten in the classroom because they're not allowed to all get together in the hall like they used to. All of that on top of teaching the normal curriculum and a catch-up curriculum, because obviously they've missed a lot of schooling, so there was a catch-up curriculum, and all the usual administrative jobs that have to be done as well. So a lot of stress on the classroom teachers, on all staff. I'm a governor, so we had our normal governing meetings via Zoom, like a lot of church meetings, as we had assemblies too. and staff meetings. So the virtual platforms were indispensable. We used them a lot. Lockdown would have looked different for different members of staff. Some were at home for quite some of that time, teaching via Google Classrooms. But everyone was doing their bit, but it all looked differently for everyone else. For everyone, it looked different. So in a nutshell, that's been my working year, really. But what has amazed me during that time has been the resilience of the children. And that's where my hope starts to filter through, really, especially at this time of year. At Christmas, there's no better place to be than teaching in a school, especially a primary school. The children come in wide-eyed, they're excited, their voices are shrill, they can't wait, their anticipation levels are up here. And one of my favourite things I have taught over these past few weeks has been the nativity story, the story of the birth of Christ. And I've had great joy in being able to explain to them, without Jesus' birthday, without the birth of Christ, there would be no Christmas, that we celebrate Christ Mass, the Feast of Christ. And that's been really nice to have that opportunity to share that with the children. And hope is about anticipating the future, of wanting something to happen beyond the current darkness. Beyond the current darkness to where the light is. Perhaps that light's out of sight now, but it is there and it will shine through. And we anticipate that at Christmas. At school, we very much concentrate on what we can do, not what we can't do. And I think that's important that we do that at home as well. We've certainly got to do Christmas different this year. We can't do what we normally do to keep people safe. We have to do things differently. So there's a challenge there, but it's not insurmountable. We need to look at Christmas, I think, through the eyes of a child and anticipate with their expectation the hope that is Christmas, the hope that Christ brings us. At this time of coronavirus especially, I think we need to hold on to hope. And sometimes hope is all we have. And in moments when we think we've got nothing, if you have hope, then you actually do have everything. And one of my favourite hymns is, "In Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my strength, my light, my song." May God bless you all this Christmas as glimmers of hope shatter the darkness with the birth of the Christ child. Happy Christmas.